Hey there, Rob Van Wagner, coming to you from my writing studio in Concrete, Washington. If you've checked out any of my previous videos on this site, you know that I'm the author of a recently released novel by the title of The Contortionists from Signature Books. The novel tells the story of a family in the aftermath of one of their own, a little 5-year-old boy going missing, and follows the 3 days following his disappearance. I'm going to read a little bit more to you from the novel. This chapter comes to you from the point of view of the missing boy's aunt, one of the main characters in the novel. So sit back, relax, and take a listen. Here we go. Drawing on the Powers of Heaven, 4 p.m. In the little over an hour since Detective Craig had disappeared, there'd been no word, nothing new, and Carly could not help but suspect the silence meant only bad. Melissa and Joe's house had begun to close in, the room shrinking miniature under a claustrophobic squeeze. There was no place but memory and speculation to go, nothing to do that offered relief. The family was trapped, and Carly, besieged by a familiar compulsion, resisted the impulse to flee. Sally had been diligent, her coaching methodical. "You can do this," she told Melissa. "You'll read the statement, that's all. Milo will answer any questions." Carly glanced up from the piano music she thumbed through. Arms folded, Hans seemed lost in concentration. Carly could not tell what he thought of Sally's plan, but she took comfort in his presence, his long-suffering competence. Hans loved her family, and they loved him. He had won them over with goodwill and by bringing her home to Utah. The contradiction was not lost on Carly that her family would absolve him of the same trespasses they couldn't forgive her of. With unfailing patience, he had accompanied her through 1,000 minefields. "Notoriously insensitive," Sally was saying. "They'll want to know if you're suspects, maybe worse. It'll be unpleasant. You need to prepare yourselves." Melissa sat rigid in a wing-back chair, clutching a stuffed Pooh Bear that belonged to Joshua. To Carly, the grip seemed masochistic, though she could not deny her sister had grown stronger under Sally's tutelage. Melissa had assumed a stoic resignation. Resigned to what? Carly was less sure. "I can do it," Melissa said. "Good," Sally said. Just keep reminding yourself you're talking to whoever has your boy. Keep that right at the front of your brain. It's an appeal. It can work, but you have to believe it. You have to act like you believe it." The living room soured in a broiling heat. Too many fevered, unwashed bodies, the southwest slap of a post-storm sun. Carly put down the sheet music and crossed to the storm door. As she raised the pane, the loose screen buckled, the house's first suspiration after a long-held breath. Carly did not share Sally's faith, and the familiarity of her disbelief pained her. She longed to be wrong, but watching the rehearsal could not convince herself Melissa believed it either. Carly, who found it difficult to place faith in anything but her marriage, ached for her sister's failing hope even more than she ached for her own. She left the room then, to open another window, though mostly she left to be alone. In the kitchen, she found a bottle of Coke warming on the counter, an empty glass beside it. There were a few dirty dishes on the table as well, a mug and spoon, a spent tea bag in a saucer, another empty glass. Someone had knocked the baking soda from the shelf, spilling white powder 5 feet into the kitchen. The box was still on the floor, the pantry door open. Carly cleared the table and threw the tea bag away, then loaded the dishes in the dishwasher. She returned the baking soda to its shelf, then lifted the dustpan and broom from their hooks and swept up the powder. She stowed the Coke, and as the fridge door closed, watched Joshua's stick figure swing into view. She studied the drawings and tried to imagine. She loved Hans beyond any measure she'd once believed possible. But Hans was not a child, and no matter Carly's love, he was not her own flesh and blood. The helplessness would drive a mother crazy. The possibility your child might alone face a torment you dared not even imagine. Carly herself could not hold the thought and make herself breathe in and out. If she were Melissa, she would be out of her mind. No wonder Joe had turned to the bottle. Carly traced Josh's pictures, the waxy surface faintly moist under her fingers. She rolled the pad against her thumb, hoping in vain for a hint of colored residue, some physical totem of Josh to take with her. She and Hans had told no one they were trying to make a baby. Overnight, it seemed, the someday presumption of a distant motherhood had burgeoned into now. Her sudden desire had so pleased Hans that she almost regretted waiting so long. She smiled, thinking of this morning. Hans's lovemaking had assumed a dearness since they decided to get pregnant. He had become almost boyish in his pleasure. In Norway, the sex had been new and wonderful, but for all of that, it had lacked the freedom she felt of late. There had been the hounding from home and from her mission president, from the church authorities in Utah. The illicitness of their love had intensified everything, the good and the bad. She took the 3 stairs to the back door, slid up the pane, then turned and looked down the basement stairwell. The light was on. She descended and, pausing at the bottom, tracked her own breath as she surveyed the damage. Caleb's description was accurate. Joe had been thorough. Books and DVDs had been thrown off shelves, furniture upended, toy boxes emptied. The TV lay screened down on the carpet, cord and cable stretched tail-like through the gaping entertainment center. Nothing, it seemed, was where it belonged. Carly touched her lips. Poor Joe. He was entirely alone now, with Melissa so far away. The door to his office was open, and Carly picked toward it, stepping over and around debris. There was nowhere in the office for a child to hide, and still the space had been rifled. Only the electronics, the computer equipment, the scanners and copiers had not been moved. Open cabinets, empty cardboard cartons, their contents dumped on the floor. An uncapped Smirnoff lay on its side in the carriage of Joe's color printer. A sticky rivulet had run down the incline and into the slotted mechanism. Carly ran her finger through the dribble, then brought it to her nose. Nearly odorless, the alcohol all but evaporated. She picked up the empty bottle and dropped it in the garbage. Thank you.